I wasn't looking for work when the offer came. I'd been drifting for years, patching roofs in summer, stacking boxes in a warehouse when the weather turned cold, taking whatever job would cover another month's rent. But what I really chased wasn't money. It was the rush, the hum of blood in my ears when I stood on the edge of something too high to be safe. I'd climb anything that reached toward the clouds' bridges, cliffs, old TV towers that hadn't broadcast a signal in decades. That's probably how he found me. 2 months before, I'd posted a video of myself free climbing an abandoned water tower just outside Dayton. No ropes, no harness, just me, rusted steel, and open sky. The video didn't stay up long. Somebody reported it, and the platform took it down for safety violations. But not before it made the rounds in a few local circles. So when a stranger slid into the booth across from me at a greasy diner off I-71 night, I knew he wasn't there by chance. He was tall, too tall, thin, with the kind of stiffness that made me think of taxidermy more than muscle. His suit was charcoal gray and hung loose around his frame. His skin was pale, almost translucent, and when he smiled, it didn't look human. It looked like something trying to imitate a human smile. "You're Jack, aren't you?" he asked, voice flat as a dead phone line. I hesitated. "Yeah, who's asking?" He reached out a hand. Against every instinct, I shook it. It was like touching something that had been left in a freezer overnight, cold, damp, and soft in all the wrong ways. "I'm with Mortis Communications," he said. "We're expanding our service range. We need climbers, skilled ones. You, in particular." "Mortis Communications," I repeated. "Never heard of it." He tilted his head slightly, like the name wasn't supposed to be known. "We saw you climb," he said, from inside his jacket. He pulled a manila envelope and slid it across the table. My name was written on it in thin, careful letters that seemed to tremble on the paper. Inside was a short contract barely a page long with a check that made my throat tighten. Enough to pay 3 months of overdue bills. "Hazard pay," he said. "It's not for everyone, but I think it's exactly what you've been looking for." I should have walked away. I should have asked questions. But I didn't, because I wasn't afraid of the climb. What unsettled me was him. The way his eyes didn't blink. The way his words felt rehearsed. The way the company name Mortis sounded more like a tombstone inscription than a business. But the check was real, and I was broke. So I signed. There was no long clause about safety. No HR pages. Just a date, a location, and a time. At the bottom, a space for my name. When I slid it back, he rose in one motion, nodded, and walked out without another word. The bell over the diner door jingled weakly as he left. And then it was just me and that envelope full of promises I didn't understand. The next morning, I drove. The address led miles past the last farmhouse, down gravel roads that narrowed into little more than dirt and weeds. Eventually, the tower came into view, steel and sky, stabbing upward so high it hurt to look at. There was no one there. No truck. No foreman. No coworkers. Just a chain-link fence hanging open and a concrete pad with a locked utility shed. It didn't feel like a work site. It felt like a graveyard. But I'd signed the paper, and the pay was real. So I clipped in, adjusted my harness, and began to climb. At first, it was easy. Hand, foot, pull. The rhythm came back quick, like muscle memory waking up from a long sleep. 50 feet up, the truck was already shrinking below me. The farmland flattened, stretching into green and brown squares fading toward the horizon. The wind picked up, soft at first, then sharper. 100 feet, 200. That's when I noticed the vest. It was snagged on a crossbar, a bright orange safety vest, sun-bleached and stiff. One strap torn, edges darkened. It fluttered in the wind like something left there years ago. 100 feet higher. I spotted a helmet wedged between rungs. White. Cracked. No logo. It looked brittle enough to crumble if I touched it. Accidents happen, I told myself. Some idiot dropped gear. Nothing to worry about. So I climbed. 500 feet. 1,000. My breath grew ragged. But the rhythm steadied me. Hand. Foot. Pull. 1,500 feet. The steel moaned in the wind. My arms ached. My thighs shook. But the world below was breathtaking flat. Quiet. Unreal. Then, at 2,000 feet, the ladder ended. There was a small platform at the top, just big enough for me to stand on. I hauled myself up, boots scraping against steel, and froze. In the center sat a shallow iron basin, blackened by fire, scorched, empty, and nailed to the railing beside it was a piece of paper. Its corners flapped in the wind, its surface stiff and crusted. Smears of something dark, too dark, ran along the edges. At the top, in jagged handwriting, it read, "Hello, Jack." Beneath that, typed in neat red letters, "If you follow these rules and complete your task, your debt of $118, $940 will be paid." I stared at the number. My chest went cold. That was my debt. Exact. Not rounded. Not estimated. Exact down to the last dollar and cent. Nobody knew that number. Not my sister. Not my old boss. Not even the collectors who called twice a day. Only me. So how the hell did they know? The wind roared past, snapping the paper against the rail. I looked down and my stomach dropped. The world was gone. No fields. No roads. No sky. Just a black void beneath me, shifting like smoke. The ladder had vanished. There was nothing under my boots except the platform, floating alone in the dark. I was 2,000 feet above nothing. My hands trembled as I lifted the paper again. Beneath the greeting was a list, written in those same jagged strokes. 1. Brush away the ash at your feet. When you uncover the symbol, trace it with the chalk under the basin. 2. Prick your palm and smear a drop of blood across the traced mark. 3. Insert the key into the hole beneath the basin and turn it to ignite the fire. 4. Speak the words, Malgrim. Come forth. 5. Keep the key in your pocket. Do not let anyone have it. 6. Descend the ladder with the key. Do not look back. I crouched slowly. The steel felt gritty beneath my gloves. I brushed aside a layer of gray dust. Lines appeared faint, burned into the metal. A sigil. A pentagram. I hesitated, then reached under the basin and felt something smooth shock. When I started tracing the lines, the sound was sharp, shrill against the metal. As the last line connected, a faint shimmer rippled through the platform. Below me, a single rung of ladder appeared glowing faintly against the darkness. I froze. It wasn't a trick of the light. It was real. The chalk had done something. The rules were working. I swallowed hard and moved to step 2. I slid off my glove, found a tiny knife wedged in the seam of the basin, and pressed it to my palm. The cut stung sharp and quick. A bead of blood welled up and fell onto the sigil. The platform jolted. A sound like metal screaming echoed through the void. Below, the ladder reformed rungs. Beams. Bolts stretching down into the darkness like it was rebuilding itself from the air. Piece by piece, the tower was coming back. I wanted to stop. Every instinct told me to stop. But I didn't see another way down. So I kept going. I found the key next to brass piece lying by a narrow slit under the basin. It was cold and heavier than it should have been. When I turned it, a blue flame roared to life in the basin, steady and silent. It didn't flicker. It didn't move. It just was wrong. Perfect. Cold fire. The heat of it wasn't heat at all. It was like standing too close to a storm. Below me, more of the tower rebuilt itself, slamming back into existence. I should have stopped. But there was still one more rule. The final step of the ritual said to speak the words, Malgrim, come forth. That name crawled across my mind like a spider. It didn't sound human. It didn't even sound alive. But the rules said that if I spoke it, the ladder would be complete. I could climb down. I could go home. My throat felt dry. I didn't want to say it. But the void below shifted. And for the first time, I saw something move in Itzamething vast. A shadow under the dark. I took a deep breath. Malgrim. The sound of the name rippled through the air like a drop of ink in water. The blue fire hissed higher. Almost white now. I clenched my fists. Blood dripping from the cut on my palm. Come forth. The platform vibrated. The wind screamed. The black beneath me churned. And then I heard it. A rumble so deep it bypassed my ears and went straight into my chest. The void itself began to move slow. Deliberate. Massive shapes shifting below. Like mountains rolling under a black sea. Something had heard me. I leaned over the rail and saw that the ladder now stretched downward farther than before, hundreds of feet. Maybe more. The world below shimmered faintly. A distant painting of fields and roads. Distorted and far away. I didn't care what I'd done anymore. I just wanted off the damn tower. So I clipped in, grabbed the first rung, and began to descend. The steel was cold and wet beneath my gloves. Every few feet, frost bit through the fabric. Hand, foot, drop, hand, foot, drop. The air grew thicker the farther I went. The blue light from above dimmed, and shadows stretched across the metal. I didn't look up. I didn't look down. I just moved. But the rumbling didn't stop. Somewhere below, the darkness shifted again and I realized it wasn't the tower moving. It was the world. Shapes rose from the void. At first, I thought they were hills. Then one of them turned. It had eyes. Glowing. Molten eyes. The shape lifted an arm the size of a skyscraper, dragging itself upward. Another followed, and another giant silhouettes, horned and crawling toward the light. Demons, titans, whatever they were. I'd brought them back. And then, from above, came the light. At first I thought it was lightning, but it didn't flash, it burned. A golden brilliance tore through the dark, blinding, pure. Wings unfolded within it vast. White hot. Moving without sound. I knew what it was before it spoke. It wasn't human. It wasn't even close. It was an angel. The voice struck like thunder wrapped in mercy. Stop. It wasn't loud. It didn't have to be. Every atom of air trembled with that single word. I froze. My boot slipped slightly. The rung slick with frost. I held tighter. The light behind me grew stronger. I didn't dare turn. My lungs ached. My heart pounded like it wanted out of my chest. Give me the key, son. The words rolled through me, heavy and calm. I gripped my pocket. The brass key was still there, hot against my leg as if alive. I didn't answer. I just kept moving. Down, down. Give me the key. The voice said again. I cannot take it from you. Something in the way it said cannot froze me more than any threat could. I shut my eyes, forehead pressed to the cold metal. I thought about everything that had led me Hurrimi debts. The bad choices, the nights I'd wasted, the people I'd hurt, all the times I turned away. And now, at the bottom of the world, something holy was offering to take the burden from me, but only if I gave it up willingly. Behind me, the light pressed closer, pure and unbearable. Ahead, the ground shimmered faintly, so close I could almost taste the dust. If I kept the key, I could reach the bottom. I could run, forget, but the things I'd unleashed would keep coming. If I gave it up, maybe I'd never reach the ground at all. The ladder trembled. My chest burned. My throat cracked. I just wanted to be free. I whispered. I just wanted out. Freedom. The voice said, "Is not escape." I cried then. Quietly. The wind ripped the sound away. Finally, I reached into my pocket, pulled out the key, and held it up without turning. The air around me pulsed soft, warm. A hand, impossibly large and yet gentle, closed over mine. The key lifted from my palm like it weighed nothing. The heat faded. The wind stilled. When I finally opened my eyes, the light was rising, fading into the distance like a dawn tearing through blackness. And then, without warning, the rung beneath my foot gave way. I fell. The world flashed blue, then white, then black again. Steel and wind and gravity folded together until there was nothing but silence. When I hit the ground, I felt the world go out like a candle. When I woke, it was night. Crickets chirped. A soft breeze brushed my face. My body ached like I'd been beaten, but nothing was broken. I sat up slowly. The tower was gone. No steel, no basin, no fire, no light in the sky. Just an open field under a quiet moon. My truck sat a few yards away, exactly where I'd left it. The door hung open. My helmet lay in the dirt. For a long minute, I couldn't move. I just stared at the emptiness where the tower had been, half expecting it to blink back into view. Then I saw the paper. It was pinned to the hood of my truck by the wind. The same paper, edges curled, faintly stained with blood. I picked it up. The words were still there. "Hello, Jack." The rest had changed. "Your debt is forgiven. Another has been found." I folded it and slipped it into my pocket, not because I wanted to keep it, but because I needed proof that it had ever existed. When I started the truck, the radio hissed. White noise. Then, for a brief second, a voice, a familiar one, low and even. "Climb safely," it said. Then the static returned. I drove home in silence. The road unrolled through the dark like a ribbon, and for the first time in years, I felt a strange kind of peace. Not comfort peace, the kind you get after confession, when everything ugly has been dragged into the light. But peace isn't the same as safety. Sometimes I dream of that tower. Sometimes I wake to the smell of cold metal and burnt ozone. And sometimes, when I check my phone, I see missed calls from numbers I don't recognize, numbers that start with area codes that don't exist. Maybe Mortis is still out there, recruiting. Maybe they found someone else. And maybe someday, another climber will stand on that platform and read a greeting written just for them. In a world where desperation drives people to dangerous choices, where corporations prey on debt and fear, what do we call evil? Is it the thing we summon or the system that convinces us to summon it? Jack's story isn't just about a tower or a ritual. It's about what happens when a man mistakes risk for redemption, and when mercy comes not from escape, but from surrender. What would you have done? Would you have kept the key or given it up? Share your thoughts below. How do you see the line between violence and justice in your own life? Do we truly pay our debts through blood or through forgiveness? Let's talk about it.